morning, we look at what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. On Tuesday, we spoke with two women who started their own companies, and they're weathering the tough economy. Well, business and economics correspondent Rebecca Jarvis has what you need to know before taking the plunge. Rebecca, good morning. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
What is the first question? I guess the most important question you need to ask yourself before you embark on an endeavor like this.
Number one thing is, do I have the stomach for this? The reality is that 9 out of 10 businesses fail in their first 5 years. It is literally like having a child. Starting a business is a full-time responsibility, and it's not like a full-time job. It takes even more of you. Now, that's not to discourage people from going after their dreams, but it is to say it takes absolutely everything that one can give, and you have to have the stomach for that.
And looking at those numbers, I mean, the odds are not in your favor just when you start out. As far as the responsibility, because there is so much responsibility that comes with this, I guess, how do you know if you can shoulder this type of responsibility?
You have to think about, are you comfortable with shouldering multiple responsibilities? If you're starting a business, chances are you are your only employee, or you have few employees in the beginning. That means you have to be your chief marketing person, your chief salesperson. You might have to be the receptionist. You might have to be piecing together the product in the beginning. You are literally juggling everything. And if you're not comfortable with juggling multiple different types of responsibilities, that's a big red flag for somebody. To think about starting a business, you have to know that you're willing to do it, and you have to be a good decision maker, because you're going to be, everything is going to fall on your shoulders.
Exactly. There's no other person to go to. It's all on you.
Right.
This seems like an obvious question, but how important is it in choosing the type of business that you do decide to start up?
Well, here's the thing. It's important for multiple reasons, and some of them are less obvious than others. First of all, you have to love it because you are dedicating your whole life to it. You also have to love it because you want other people to love it. You have to do your market research. How many other businesses are out there doing the same thing? Are they selling what you're selling at the same price? But as far as market research goes, you know, Steve Jobs didn't have market research to say, this is an Apple iPhone and people want this. Instead, he went with a vision. So that's also an important part of this. You have to love it and have a vision. And sometimes that vision is something different than what's already in the marketplace, and that can be a good thing.
The entrepreneurs we spoke with yesterday talked about money quite a bit and thinking that I think we have enough money. Well, we're not sure. We don't have as much money as we thought. How big an issue is that? How much is that come into play when you figure out how much money do I need in order to start up my own business?
Money can be very important, but depending on the business, it plays a different role. For example, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook with $1,000, $1,000 donation from a friend of his. Then he eventually got more money down the road. People can do that, but money is not only important from the perspective of how much money does it take to start this business, it's also important from the perspective of how much money do I need to continue my lifestyle the way that it exists right now? Can I survive on making no paycheck if my business happens to not turn out a profit right away?
And you've got enough savings to get by without a paycheck. These are some of the things you have to think about. Can you cover your expenses, like you mentioned? And how long can you cover your expenses? There's so many different factors that come into play here.
And you have to think about a time frame, too. When you're going out and starting a business, sometimes you have to start at the outset saying, this is the amount of time I can dedicate to this before I have to say, okay, maybe I'm looking for another job in the workforce, or let's expand, let's grow from here.
How about resources for people that are thinking about taking on something like this?
Well, I reached out to a number of small businesses that I'm in regular contact with, and on Twitter there were some great responses. Diane White PR says that she uses a handful of things. She says, I love American Express Open, also Entrepreneur Magazine and Inc. Magazine and their websites. Now, both Entrepreneur Magazine and Inc. Magazine websites are wonderful resources for small businesses. They're areas where people who are in small businesses come and share their best practices. Another entrepreneur says at Mimi Carter 01, I would say that for us, the small business resources we use to grow are Google Apps, WordPress, Facebook, and the iPhone. Now, Google Apps are a great way. It's a free way to share documents. So if you don't have the money to invest upfront in technology, this is a great way for anyone who's running a small business to share information. Also, WordPress is a free blogging site on the internet. And then you also have the iPhone, which Mimi says is a great way for her business to stay mobile. And it's the least expensive. She's done the numbers. She's ran them. It's the least expensive way for them to be mobile as a company.
And that is key when you start out, like you mentioned, because the failure rate is so high. You have to save as much money when you're trying to basically get this thing up and running as you can and be smart about it.
And that is such a good point. Save where you can.
Yeah. All right, Rebecca, thanks so much. Great tips. Great.